During the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's rule over Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon launched an attack on Jerusalem and took control of the city. God allowed Jehoiakim to fall into Nebuchadnezzar's hands, along with some of the sacred objects from the temple. The Babylonian king took these treasures back to the land of Shinar and placed them in the temple of his own gods. Nebuchadnezzar then instructed Ashpenaz, the chief of his court officials, to select a group of young men from the Israelites, specifically from the royal family and noble households. These young men had to be physically flawless, intelligent, well-educated, and quick to understand new knowledge, ideal candidates to serve in the king's palace. They were to be trained in the language and culture of the Babylonians to prepare them for royal service. As part of their preparation, the king provided them with a daily portion of the finest food and wine from his own table. This training period was to last 3 years, after which they would be presented before the king. Among those chosen were 4 young men from the tribe of Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. However, the chief official assigned them new Babylonian names. Daniel was called Belteshazzar. Hananiah became Shadrach. Mishael was renamed Meshach, and Azariah was given the name Abednego. Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and drinking the wine from the king's table, as it did not align with his beliefs. So, he approached the chief official overseeing them and asked for permission to avoid consuming these royal provisions. Fortunately, God had given Daniel favor in the eyes of the official, who had great respect and care for him. However, the official was hesitant, saying, "I fear the king, who has assigned your meals. If you appear weaker than the other young men, I could be held responsible and even lose my life." Daniel then turned to Melzar, the attendant in charge of him and his 3 friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He proposed a simple test. "Please allow us to eat only vegetables and drink water for 10 days. Then compare our appearance with the others who eat the king's food. After that, decide what to do with us, based on what you see." Melzar agreed and let them follow this diet for 10 days. When the time was up, Daniel and his friends looked healthier and stronger than all the other young men who had eaten the royal food. Seeing this, Melzar decided to let them continue their special diet, removing the king's food and wine from their meals and providing them only with vegetables and water. Because of their faithfulness, God blessed these 4 young men with wisdom and deep understanding. They excelled in knowledge, and Daniel was even given the ability to interpret visions and dreams. When the training period ended, the chief official presented them to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king spoke with them and found that none of the other trainees could compare to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. As a result, they were chosen to serve in his court. In every matter requiring wisdom and insight, King Nebuchadnezzar found Daniel and his 3 companions to be far superior, 10 times better, than all the magicians, astrologers, and wise men in his entire kingdom. Daniel continued to serve in the royal court, even through the reign of King Cyrus. During the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's rule, the king had a series of troubling dreams that left him deeply disturbed and unable to sleep. Seeking answers, he summoned his magicians, astrologers, sorcerers, and Chaldean scholars, demanding that they explain the meaning of his dreams. When they arrived, he said, "I have had a dream that has unsettled me, and I need to understand what it means." The Chaldeans, speaking in the court language, replied, "O king, may you live forever. Please tell us your dream, and we will interpret it for you." But the king responded, "I cannot recall the dream. If you do not tell me both the dream itself and its meaning, you will face severe punishment. However, if you succeed, I will reward you with great gifts and honors. Now tell me what I dreamed and what it means." Once again the wise men pleaded, If the king tells us the dream, we will provide its interpretation." But Nebuchadnezzar saw through them. "I know you are stalling for time because you realize I do not remember the dream. You hope to deceive me with false interpretations, but I will not be fooled. If you are truly wise, then reveal the dream itself. Only then will I believe that you can interpret it." The Chaldeans replied to the king, saying, "No human on earth can do what you ask, your majesty. No ruler, no matter how great, has ever demanded such a thing from magicians, astrologers, or scholars. What you require is beyond human ability. Only the gods, who do not dwell among mortals, could reveal such a mystery." Hearing this, King Nebuchadnezzar was furious. In his anger, he ordered that all the wise men of Babylon be executed. The decree was sent out, and soldiers began searching for Daniel and his companions to put them to death along with the others. When the captain of the royal guard, Arioch, came to carry out the order, Daniel responded with wisdom and calmness. He asked Arioch, "Why has the king made such a harsh and urgent decree?" Arioch then explained the situation to Daniel. Upon hearing this, Daniel went straight to the king and asked for more time, promising that he would reveal the meaning of the dream. He then returned to his house and told Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah about the situation. Together, they prayed and pleaded for God's mercy, asking him to reveal the secret so they would not perish with the rest of Babylon's wise men. That night, God revealed the mystery to Daniel in a vision. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Daniel praised the God of heaven, saying, "Blessed be the name of God forever, for he alone possesses wisdom and power. He controls the flow of time, raises up kings and removes them. He grants wisdom to those who seek it and knowledge to those who understand. He reveals hidden and mysterious things, for he sees what lies in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I give you thanks and praise, O God of my ancestors, for you have granted me wisdom and strength. You have answered our prayers and made known to us the king's dream." Without delay, Daniel approached Arioch, the official tasked with carrying out the execution of Babylon's wise men. He said, "Do not harm them. Take me to the king, and I will reveal the meaning of his dream." Arioch quickly brought Daniel before Nebuchadnezzar and announced, "I have found a man among the captives of Judah who can explain the king's dream." The king turned to Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, and asked, "Are you truly able to tell me what I dreamed and what it means?" Standing before the king, Daniel replied, "No wise man, astrologer, magician, or soothsayer can reveal the secret you have asked for. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the days to come. Your dream and the visions that appeared in your mind as you lay in bed are a glimpse of the future. As for me, this mystery was not revealed because of any special wisdom I possess above others. Rather, God has made it known for the sake of those who seek understanding, so that you, O king, may know the meaning of your dream and the thoughts that have troubled your heart." Daniel continued, "Your Majesty, in your dream you saw a massive statue, an image of great brilliance and terrifying appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms were silver, its belly and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were a mixture of iron and clay. As you watched, a stone was cut out, not by human hands, and it struck the feet of the statue, shattering them. Then the entire structure, iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold, crumbled into dust, like chaff on a threshing floor in summer. The wind carried it all away, leaving no trace behind. But the stone that struck the statue grew into a vast mountain that filled the whole earth. This was your dream, and now I will explain its meaning. O king, you are the greatest of rulers. The God of heaven has given you dominion, power and glory. He has placed all people, animals, and birds under your rule, making you the supreme authority. You represent the head of gold in the vision. However, after your reign, another kingdom will rise, one inferior to yours. Then a third kingdom, represented by the bronze, will take control and rule over the earth. Following that, a fourth kingdom will emerge, strong like iron. Just as iron crushes and breaks everything in its path, this kingdom will shatter and subdue all others. The feet and toes you saw, made of both iron and clay, represent a divided kingdom. It will have the strength of iron, but also the fragility of clay. Some parts of the kingdom will be strong, while others will be weak. The mixture of iron and clay also symbolizes how people in this kingdom will try to unite, but they will not truly hold together, just as iron and clay do not mix. Daniel continued, "During the reign of these kings, the God of heaven will establish a kingdom that will never be destroyed. Unlike the earthly empires before it, this kingdom will not be handed over to another people. Instead, it will crush and bring an end to all other kingdoms, yet it will stand forever. The stone you saw, cut from the mountain without human hands, breaking the statue into pieces, is a sign of this. The great God has revealed to you what will happen in the future. This dream is true, and its interpretation is certain." Upon hearing this, King Nebuchadnezzar fell face down in awe, honoring Daniel. He commanded that offerings and incense be presented to him. Then he said, "Truly, your God is above all gods, the Lord of kings, and the one who reveals mysteries. Only he could have made this secret known to you." The king then elevated Daniel to a position of great power, showering him with gifts and appointing him as ruler over the entire province of Babylon. He also made him the chief administrator over all the wise men of the kingdom. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to oversee the affairs of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. Sometime later, King Nebuchadnezzar ordered the construction of a massive golden statue, standing about 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. He had it set up on the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then he sent out a proclamation summoning all the high-ranking officials, princes, governors, military commanders, judges, treasurers, advisors, law enforcers, and all the rulers of the provinces to attend the dedication ceremony of this statue. Obeying the king's order, all these officials gathered at the site where the golden statue had been erected. They stood before it, awaiting the next command from Nebuchadnezzar. Then a royal herald proclaimed loudly, "People of all nations and languages, hear this command. The moment you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and all kinds of music, you must bow down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Anyone who refuses to worship it will be immediately thrown into a blazing furnace." So when the music played, people from every nation and language fell to their knees and worshipped the golden statue, obeying the king's decree. However, some Chaldean men approached the king with a complaint. They said, "O King Nebuchadnezzar, may you live forever. You have issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and all kinds of music must bow down and worship the golden statue. You also declared that anyone who refuses will be thrown into a fiery furnace. But there are certain Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you appointed to oversee the province of Babylon. These men have no respect for you, O king. They do not serve your gods, nor do they worship the golden image you have set up." Hearing this, Nebuchadnezzar was furious. In a fit of rage, he ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. When they were brought in, the king said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods and worship the golden statue I have set up. I will give you one more chance. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and all kinds of music, if you bow down and worship the image I have made, everything will be fine. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And tell me, what God could possibly rescue you from my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood before the king and replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us, and he will rescue us from your power, O king. But even if he does not, know this: we will never serve your gods or bow down to the golden image you have set up." Hearing this, Nebuchadnezzar became furious. His expression changed as his anger burned against them. In his rage, he ordered that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. He then commanded the strongest soldiers in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the fire. The 3 men were tied up while still wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other garments, and they were thrown into the midst of the raging flames. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so intensely hot that the fire engulfed and killed the very soldiers who carried them to the furnace. Meanwhile, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell, still bound, into the roaring flames. Then something astonishing happened. King Nebuchadnezzar suddenly jumped to his feet in shock. He turned to his advisors and asked, "Did we not throw 3 men, bound, into the fire?" "Yes, O king," they replied. But the king, his eyes wide with amazement, said, "Look, I see 4 men walking freely in the fire. They are completely unharmed, and the 4th man looks like a divine being." Standing near the entrance of the blazing furnace, King Nebuchadnezzar called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and step forward." Without hesitation, the 3 men emerged from the fire, unharmed. Astonished, the gathered officials, princes, governors, military leaders, and royal advisors watched in disbelief. The flames had left no mark on them, not a single hair was burned, their clothes remained untouched, and there wasn't even the faintest smell of smoke on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar declared, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his faithful servants who defied my command and chose to risk their lives rather than worship any god but their own. Therefore I issue a new decree. Anyone from any nation or language who speaks against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be severely punished, and their homes will be destroyed. For no other God has the power to save like this." Following this miraculous event, the king elevated Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. Later, King Nebuchadnezzar sent a message to people of every nation and language across the world. "May peace be multiplied to you all. I find it necessary to proclaim the great signs and wonders that the Most High God has performed before my eyes. His miracles are truly extraordinary, and his power is beyond measure. His kingdom stands forever, and his rule extends from generation to generation. I, King Nebuchadnezzar, was living in peace and prosperity in my palace when I had a dream that filled me with fear. The visions I saw while lying in bed deeply troubled me, and I could not shake my unease. So I issued a command for all the wise men of Babylon to come before me, hoping they could explain the meaning of my dream. One by one, the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and fortune-tellers arrived, and I shared my dream with them. But despite their knowledge, none of them could provide its interpretation. Finally, Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, a name given to him after my God, came before me. I knew that he was different, for the spirit of the holy gods was within him. Confident in his wisdom, I said to him, "Belteshazzar, chief of the magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that no mystery is too great for you to uncover. Tell me what my dream means." In my vision, I saw a mighty tree standing in the center of the earth, its height towering into the heavens. It was strong and majestic, its branches stretching so far that it could be seen from every corner of the world. Its leaves were lush and beautiful, and it bore abundant fruit, providing food for all. Animals found shelter in its shade, birds nested among its branches, and every living creature was sustained by it. As I lay in bed, visions appeared before me. I saw a divine messenger, a holy being, descending from the heavens. He spoke loudly, declaring, "Cut down the great tree, chop off its branches, strip away its leaves, and scatter its fruit. Let the animals that sheltered beneath it flee, and the birds that perched on its branches take flight. However, leave the stump and its roots in the ground, bound with bands of iron and bronze, surrounded by the grass of the field. Let it be drenched with the dew of heaven, and let it share the earth's grass with the wild beasts. Take away its human heart and replace it with the heart of an animal. Let this state continue for 7 periods of time. This decree has been given by the Watchers, and the Holy Ones have proclaimed it, so that all people may understand that the Most High rules over human kingdoms. He gives power to whomever he chooses, even to the lowest among men." I, King Nebuchadnezzar, had this dream. Now, Belteshazzar, tell me what it means. None of the wise men in my kingdom have been able to explain it, but I know that you can, for the spirit of the holy gods is within you. Hearing this, Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, was speechless for a long time, deeply troubled by the vision. Sensing his distress, the king reassured him, saying, "Belteshazzar, do not let this dream or its meaning disturb you." Belteshazzar then replied, "My lord, may this dream apply to those who oppose you, and its interpretation be for your enemies instead. The tree you saw in your dream, the one that grew tall and strong, reaching up to the heavens and visible across the entire earth, its lush leaves, abundant fruit, and the shelter it provided for animals and birds. It represents you, O king. You have grown powerful, your strength reaching the heavens, and your rule extending to the farthest corners of the earth. But as you also saw, a divine messenger came down from heaven and commanded that the tree be cut down and destroyed, though its stump and roots were to remain in the ground, bound with iron and bronze, surrounded by the grass of the field. It was to be drenched with the dew of heaven, and its fate was to be among the wild animals until 7 periods of time had passed. This, O king, is the meaning of your dream and the decree that has been issued by the Most High upon you. You will be driven away from human society and forced to live among the wild beasts. You will eat grass like an ox and be soaked by the dew of heaven. This will continue for 7 periods of time, until you come to understand that it is the Most High who rules over the kingdoms of the world, and he gives power to whomever he chooses. As for the stump and its roots being left in the ground, this means that your kingdom will be restored to you, once you acknowledge that it is heaven that rules over all. So, O king, listen to my advice. Turn away from your sins and do what is right. Show mercy to the poor, and perhaps then your prosperity will last longer." Everything happened just as foretold. A year later, King Nebuchadnezzar was walking on the rooftop of his palace in Babylon, admiring his kingdom. He said to himself, "Is this not the magnificent Babylon that I have built by my own strength and for my own glory?" But before he could even finish speaking, a voice came from heaven, declaring, "King Nebuchadnezzar, your kingdom is taken from you. You will be driven away from human society and will live among the wild animals. You will eat grass like an ox, and 7 periods of time will pass until you recognize that the Most High alone rules over the kingdoms of men and gives power to whomever he chooses." At that very moment, the prophecy was fulfilled. Nebuchadnezzar was cast out from among his people. He lived in the wilderness, eating grass like an ox, his body drenched with the dew of heaven. Over time, his hair grew as long as eagle's feathers, and his nails became like the claws of a bird. But when the appointed time had passed, I, Nebuchadnezzar, finally lifted my eyes to heaven, and my sanity was restored. I praised and honored the Most High, who lives forever. His kingdom is eternal, lasting from generation to generation. Before him, all the people of the earth are as nothing. He does as he pleases in the heavens and among mankind, and no one can challenge his will. At that same moment, my mind was restored, and along with it, my honor and the glory of my kingdom. My advisors and nobles sought me out once more, and I was re-established as king with even greater majesty than before. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, give praise, honor, and glory to the King of heaven. His works are true, his judgments are just, and he has the power to humble anyone who walks in pride. Sometime later, King Belshazzar held a lavish feast for 1,000 of his nobles. As he drank wine with them, he gave an order: "Bring the gold and silver cups that my father Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem. Let my princes, my wives, and my concubines drink from them." So they brought out the sacred vessels from the temple of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his guests drank from them. As they drank, they praised their idols, gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. But at that very moment, a mysterious hand appeared. Its fingers began writing on the plaster wall near the lampstand in the king's palace. Belshazzar watched in shock as the hand moved across the wall. His face went pale. Fear gripped him, and his legs trembled so violently that his knees knocked together. Panicked, the king shouted for his astrologers, sorcerers, and wise men. He declared, "Whoever can read this writing and explain its meaning will be clothed in royal scarlet, given a gold chain around his neck, and made the third most powerful ruler in the kingdom." One by one, the king's wise men tried to interpret the message, but none of them could decipher the writing or explain its meaning. This only deepened Belshazzar's fear. His face darkened with worry, and his nobles stood in stunned silence, unsure of what to do. As the king and his nobles stood in shock, the queen entered the banquet hall, having heard what was happening. She spoke with confidence. "O king, may you live forever. Do not let this trouble you or darken your face with fear. There is a man in your kingdom who carries the spirit of the holy gods. In the days of your father, King Nebuchadnezzar, he was known for his extraordinary wisdom, understanding, and insight, wisdom as great as that of the gods. Because of his remarkable ability to interpret dreams, solve riddles, and explain mysteries, your father appointed him as chief over all the magicians, astrologers, and soothsayers. This man is Daniel, whom the king renamed Belteshazzar. Call for him now, and he will reveal the meaning of this writing." At once, Daniel was brought before King Belshazzar. The king looked at him and said, "Are you Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, whom my father brought here from Jerusalem? I have heard about you, that the spirit of the gods is in you, and that you possess incredible wisdom, insight, and understanding. My wise men and astrologers have already tried to read this writing and explain its meaning, but none of them could do it. But I have also heard that you have the ability to interpret signs and solve mysteries. If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, I will clothe you in royal scarlet, place a gold chain around your neck, and make you the third most powerful ruler in the kingdom." Daniel stood before the king and replied, "Keep your gifts for yourself and give your rewards to someone else. However, I will read the writing, and tell you its meaning. O King, the Most High God granted your father, Nebuchadnezzar, a great kingdom, along with power, glory, and honor. Because of the majesty given to him, people of all nations, languages, and lands feared him. He had absolute authority. He could execute whomever he wished, spare whom he chose, elevate some to power, and bring down others. But when Nebuchadnezzar became arrogant and hardened his heart with pride, he was stripped of his throne, and his royal glory was taken from him. He was driven away from human society. His mind became like that of an animal, and he lived among the wild beasts. He ate grass like an ox, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven, until he finally recognized that the Most High God alone has power over human kingdoms and appoints rulers as he pleases. Yet you, Belshazzar, his son, have not humbled yourself, even though you knew all of this. Instead, you have exalted yourself against the Lord of heaven. You have taken the sacred vessels from his temple, and you, along with your nobles, wives, and concubines, have used them to drink wine. You have praised lifeless idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, gods that cannot see, hear, or understand. But you have failed to honor the one true God, the very one who holds your life in his hands and controls your destiny. At that moment, a mysterious hand appeared and wrote a message on the wall. The words inscribed were, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This was their meaning. Mene, God has counted the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found lacking. Peres, your kingdom will be divided and handed over to the Medes and Persians. Hearing this, King Belshazzar ordered that Daniel be dressed in a robe of royal purple, a gold chain placed around his neck, and a proclamation made, declaring him the third most powerful ruler in the kingdom. However, that very night, Belshazzar, the king of Babylon, was killed, and Darius the Mede took control of the empire at the age of 62. Darius soon reorganized the kingdom, appointing 120 governors to oversee different regions. Above them, he placed 3 high officials, with Daniel as the most distinguished among them. His wisdom and integrity were unmatched, and the king even considered giving him authority over the entire empire. However, the other officials and rulers grew jealous of Daniel's influence. They searched for any possible wrongdoing to use against him, but he was honest, diligent, and without fault. Finally, they realized the only way to trap him was through his faith, saying to themselves, the only way to accuse him is to create a law that goes against his devotion to his God. The high officials and rulers gathered before King Darius and addressed him with flattery, saying, "May the king live forever." All the leaders of the kingdom, governors, princes, counselors, and commanders, have agreed on a new law. We propose that for the next 30 days, no one should be allowed to pray or ask anything from any god or person except you, O king. Anyone who disobeys must be thrown into the den of lions. They urged the king to sign the decree so that it could not be revoked, as the laws of the Medes and Persians could not be changed. Without realizing their true intentions, King Darius approved the decree and signed it into law. When Daniel heard about the new decree, he remained faithful to his beliefs. As always, he went to his house, opened his windows facing Jerusalem, and knelt down 3 times a day to pray and give thanks to God. His enemies, knowing he would not abandon his faith, gathered and caught him in the act of praying. They immediately went to the king and questioned him, "Did you not sign a law stating that anyone who prays to any god or person besides you for 30 days must be thrown into the lion's den?" The king confirmed, "Yes, the decree is in place, and according to the law of the Medes and Persians, it cannot be changed." Then they accused Daniel, saying, "Daniel, one of the captives from Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, nor to your decree. He continues to pray 3 times a day, openly defying your command." When the king heard these words, he was deeply troubled and regretted his decision. Determined to find a way to save Daniel, he spent the entire day trying to overturn the order. However, the officials came to him and reminded him, "Your Majesty, remember that according to the laws of the Medes and Persians, no decree issued by the king can be changed." With no other choice, the king gave the command, and Daniel was taken and thrown into the lion's den. Before he was sealed inside, the king spoke to him, saying, "May the God you faithfully serve rescue you." A large stone was placed over the entrance of the den, and the king sealed it with his royal seal and the seals of his nobles, ensuring that no one could alter Daniel's fate. That night, the king returned to his palace, but he was too distraught to eat or be entertained by music. Sleep escaped him as he worried about Daniel. At the first light of dawn, he hurried to the lion's den. When he arrived, he called out with a sorrowful voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom you serve so faithfully, able to save you from the lions?" To the king's relief, Daniel answered, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me. He found me innocent in his sight, and I have done no wrong against you, O king." The king was overjoyed upon hearing Daniel's voice and immediately ordered his release from the lion's den. When Daniel was lifted out, he was completely unharmed because he had trusted in his God. Then the king gave another order. Those who had falsely accused Daniel were thrown into the lion's den along with their families. The lions overpowered them instantly, crushing their bones before they even reached the ground. After witnessing this miracle, King Darius sent a proclamation to people of every nation and language across his vast kingdom, saying, "May peace abound. I now decree that throughout my entire realm, everyone must revere and fear the God of Daniel. He is the one true and living God, unchanging and eternal. His kingdom will never fall, and his rule will last forever. He is the deliverer and rescuer, the one who performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. It is he who saved Daniel from the power of the lions." Because of his unwavering faith, Daniel continued to thrive during the reign of Darius and later under King Cyrus of Persia. During the first year of King Belshazzar's rule in Babylon, Daniel had a prophetic dream filled with powerful visions. He recorded everything he saw, detailing its significance. He said, "In my vision during the night, I saw the 4 winds of heaven stirring up the vast sea. Then 4 mighty beasts emerged from the waters, each one different from the others. The first creature was like a lion, but had the wings of an eagle. I watched as its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground to stand on 2 feet like a man. A human heart was given to it. As I continued watching, a second beast appeared, resembling a bear. It was raised up on one side, and in its mouth, between its teeth, were 3 ribs. A voice spoke to it, saying, 'Rise up and devour much flesh.' After that, I saw another creature, this one resembling a leopard. It had 4 wings on its back, like those of a bird, and it possessed 4 heads. Authority and power were given to it. Then, in my vision that night, I saw a 4th beast, more terrifying and powerful than the others. It had massive iron teeth, with which it crushed and shattered everything in its path, trampling whatever remained underfoot. Unlike the previous beasts, this one was unique, and it had 10 horns. As I observed the horns, another smaller horn emerged among them. 3 of the original horns were uprooted before it. This new horn had eyes like a human and a mouth that spoke arrogantly. I watched until thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His robe was as white as snow, and his hair was as pure as wool. His throne blazed like flames of fire, and its wheels burned with an intense glow. A river of fire flowed from his presence. Thousands upon thousands served him, and tens of thousands beyond counting stood before him. The court was convened, and the books were opened for judgment. I kept watching, drawn by the boastful words spoken by the small horn. As I watched, the fourth beast was slain, its body completely destroyed and thrown into the fire. As for the other beasts, their power was taken away, but they were allowed to live for a time. In my vision that night, I saw someone who looked like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was brought before him. He was given authority, honor, and a kingdom, so that people of every nation and language would serve him. His rule will last forever, never to be destroyed. Seeing these visions troubled me deeply, and my spirit was uneasy. I approached one of those standing nearby and asked for the meaning of all I had seen. He explained to me, "The four great beasts represent four kings who will rise from the earth. But in the end, the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess it forever, eternally, without end." I wanted to understand more about the fourth beast, the one so different from the rest, so dreadful, with iron teeth and bronze claws, crushing and devouring everything in its path and trampling what was left. I also asked about the 10 horns on its head and the other horn that rose up, before which 3 horns fell. This horn had eyes and a mouth that spoke with great arrogance, and it appeared stronger than the others. I continued watching as the small horn waged war against the holy people of God, overpowering them. This continued until the Ancient of Days arrived, bringing judgment in favor of the saints of the Most High. When the appointed time came, they received the kingdom and took possession of it. The interpretation was then given to me. The fourth beast represents the fourth kingdom on earth. It will be different from all other kingdoms, consuming the whole world, crushing it and breaking it apart. The 10 horns represent 10 kings who will emerge from this kingdom. After them, another ruler will rise, unlike the previous ones, who will overthrow 3 kings. He will speak against the Most High, oppress his holy people, and try to alter times and laws. The saints will be under his control for a time, times, and half a time. But in the end, judgment will be passed against him. His power will be stripped away, completely destroyed forever. Then the eternal kingdom, one of greatness and dominion over all the earth, will be given to the saints, the people of the Most High. His kingdom will last forever, and all rulers will serve and obey him. This concluded the vision. As for me, Daniel, I was deeply disturbed by all I had seen. My thoughts troubled me, and my expression changed, but I kept everything to myself, pondering it in my heart. In the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, received another vision, following the one I had seen earlier. In this vision, I found myself in the citadel of Susa, located in the province of Elam. As I looked around, I stood by the Ulai River. When I lifted my eyes, I saw a ram standing by the river. It had 2 horns, both tall, but one grew higher than the other, and the taller one appeared later. The ram charged west, north, and south, overpowering everything in its path. No creature could stand against it, and no one could rescue anything from its grasp. It acted as it pleased and became powerful. As I was contemplating this, suddenly, a goat appeared from the west, moving so swiftly that its feet did not touch the ground. This goat had a single prominent horn between its eyes. It rushed furiously at the ram with 2 horns, the one I had seen standing by the river. Filled with rage, the goat struck the ram, shattering both its horns. The ram had no strength to resist and was thrown to the ground, trampled underfoot. No one could save it from the goat's power. The goat became exceedingly powerful, but at the height of its strength, its great horn was broken. In its place 4 notable horns emerged, pointing toward the 4 directions of the earth. From one of these horns came a smaller horn, which grew in strength, extending its influence southward, eastward, and toward the beautiful land. This small horn became so powerful that it even challenged the armies of heaven. It brought some of the stars down to the ground and trampled them. It even exalted itself against the Prince of Heaven's armies, putting an end to the daily sacrifices and desecrating the holy sanctuary. Because of rebellion, the horn was given control over the daily offerings, and it cast the truth to the ground, prospering in everything it did. As I continued watching, I heard 2 heavenly beings speaking to one another. One asked the other, "How long will this vision last? The vision of the daily sacrifices being stopped, the rebellion that causes desolation, and the trampling of the sanctuary and its people." The other answered, "It will last for 2,300 days, and then the sanctuary will be purified." After seeing this vision, I, Daniel, sought to understand its meaning. As I was thinking about it, suddenly someone who looked like a man stood before me. Then I heard a voice from the Ulai River calling out, "Gabriel, explain the vision to this man." As Gabriel approached me, fear overwhelmed me, and I fell face down. But he said, "Listen carefully, Son of Man, because this vision is about the time of the end." As he spoke, I fell into a deep sleep, my face to the ground, but he touched me and helped me stand up. Then he said, "I will reveal to you what will happen at the end of these events, for the appointed time of fulfillment is near. The ram with 2 horns that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The goat signifies the kingdom of Greece, and its prominent horn is its first great king. But when that horn was broken, 4 kingdoms arose in its place. However, these 4 kingdoms will not have the same strength as the first. Toward the end of these kingdoms, when rebellion has reached its peak, a ruthless king will rise to power, one skilled in deception and intrigue. He will be strong, but not by his own might, and he will cause destruction on an unprecedented scale. He will succeed in his plans, bringing ruin to the powerful and the holy people alike. Through his cunning, he will make deceit thrive, becoming arrogant in his heart. He will deceive many under the guise of peace, but in the end, he will dare to challenge the Prince of Princes himself. Yet, he will be defeated, not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and mornings that has been revealed is true. However, seal it up, for it pertains to the distant future. After seeing this, I, Daniel, was so overwhelmed that I fainted and remained ill for several days. Eventually, I recovered and resumed my duties in the service of the king, but the vision left me deeply troubled. No one around me could understand its meaning. In the first year of King Darius, son of Ahasuerus, from the lineage of the Medes, who had been appointed ruler over the Chaldean kingdom, I, Daniel, studied the scriptures. I came to understand from the writings of the prophet Jeremiah that the desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. Upon realizing this, I turned to the Lord God in earnest prayer and pleading, fasting in sorrow, dressed in sackcloth, and covering myself in ashes. I poured out my heart to the Lord, confessing, "O Lord, great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant and shows mercy to those who love him and obey his commandments. We have sinned, acted wickedly, and turned away from your laws and judgments. We have ignored the words of your prophets, who spoke in your name to our kings, princes, ancestors, and all the people of the land. O Lord, you are righteous, but we are covered in shame, both the people of Judah and Jerusalem, as well as all of Israel, whether near or scattered in distant lands. We bear this shame because we have sinned against you. Our kings, princes, and ancestors share in this disgrace because we have all turned away from you. Yet you, O Lord our God, are full of mercy and forgiveness, even though we have rebelled against you. We have ignored your voice and refused to follow the laws you gave us through your servants, the prophets. Indeed, all of Israel has broken your law, turning away and refusing to listen to you. Because of this, the curse written in the law of Moses, your servant, has come upon us, for we have sinned against you. You have carried out the warnings you spoke against us and against the leaders who governed us, bringing great calamity upon us. Never before, under the entire sky, has anything been done like what has happened to Jerusalem. Just as it was written in the law of Moses, all these disasters have come upon us, yet we have not sincerely turned to you in prayer. We have not repented of our sins or sought to understand your truth. Because of this, you have allowed judgment to come upon us. Yet in all you have done, you have remained just and righteous, for we refused to obey your voice. And now, O Lord our God, you who brought your people out of Egypt with a mighty hand and made your name great throughout history, we confess, we have sinned, we have acted wickedly. O Lord, in your righteousness, I plead with you, turn away your anger and wrath from Jerusalem, your holy city. Because of our sins and the wrongdoing of our ancestors, Jerusalem and your people have become a disgrace to those around us. So now, O God, hear the prayer of your servant and my heartfelt plea. Let your face shine upon your sanctuary, which lies in ruins, for the sake of your great name. O my God, listen and hear. Open your eyes and see the desolation of the city that bears your name. We do not make this request because of our righteousness, but because of your boundless mercy. O Lord, hear us. O Lord, forgive us. O Lord, act and do not delay. For your own sake, my God, do this for your city and your people who bear your name. As I was praying, confessing my sins and the sins of my people Israel, and pleading before the Lord my God for his holy mountain, something incredible happened. While I was still speaking in prayer, Gabriel, the one I had seen in my earlier vision, suddenly came to me, flying swiftly. He reached me at the time of the evening sacrifice. Then he approached me and spoke, saying, Daniel, I have come to give you wisdom and understanding. From the moment you began to pray, a command was issued, and I have come to reveal it to you because you are deeply loved. So, pay attention and understand this vision. 70 weeks have been set for your people and the holy city to bring an end to wrongdoing, to put a stop to sin, to make amends for iniquity, and to establish eternal righteousness. This period will also confirm the prophecy and anoint the most holy. Know this: from the moment the command is given to rebuild Jerusalem until the arrival of the Messiah, the Prince, there will be 7 weeks plus 62 weeks. During this time, the streets and walls will be rebuilt, even though it will be a time of hardship. After these 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off, though not for his own wrongdoing. Then, the people of a coming ruler will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end will come like a flood, and destruction will continue until the war is over. This ruler will make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of that week, he will put an end to sacrifices and offerings. Because of widespread corruption, desolation will come upon the land, and it will remain that way until the appointed time of judgment is fulfilled. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a revelation was given to Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar. The message was true, though its fulfillment was far off. Daniel understood the vision and its meaning. During that time, he mourned for 3 full weeks. He ate no rich food, avoided meat and wine, and did not use any oils or lotions until the 3 weeks had passed. On the 24th day of the 1st month, I was standing by the great river, the Hiddekel. As I looked up, I saw a remarkable figure before me. He was dressed in a linen robe with a belt of pure gold from Upaz around his waist. His body had the brilliance of a precious stone. His face shone like lightning, and his eyes burned like flaming torches. His arms and legs gleamed like polished bronze, and when he spoke, his voice was as powerful as a great multitude speaking at once. I, Daniel, was the only one who saw this vision. The men who were with me couldn't see it, but an overwhelming fear came over them, and they ran away to hide. Left alone, I was overcome by the sight. My strength drained from me, and I felt as if all my vitality had faded away. I had no energy left. Then I heard his voice, and as soon as I did, I fell into a deep, powerless sleep, my face pressed to the ground. Suddenly I felt a hand touch me, lifting me onto my hands and knees. Then the figure spoke. "Daniel, you are deeply loved. Listen carefully to my words and stand up, for I have been sent to you." As he spoke, I rose to my feet, but I trembled in awe. Then he spoke to me, saying, "Do not be afraid, Daniel. From the very first day you set your heart on understanding and humbled yourself before God, your prayers were heard, and I have come in response to them. However, the prince of Persia resisted me for 21 days. But then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I was able to remain there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to help you understand what will happen to your people in the future, for this vision speaks of events that are still far off." As he spoke, I lowered my face to the ground and was unable to say a word. Then someone, appearing like a human, touched my lips. At that moment, I was able to speak and said to the one standing before me, "My Lord, this vision has overwhelmed me with sorrow, and I have no strength left. How can someone like me, your servant, even speak with you? I feel completely weak, and I can barely breathe." Once again, someone who looked like a man touched me, and I felt my strength return. He said, "Daniel, you are deeply loved. Do not be afraid. Peace be with you. Be strong. Yes, be strong." As he spoke, I was strengthened and said, "My Lord, please speak, for you have given me strength." Then he continued, "Do you understand why I have come to you? Now I must return to battle against the prince of Persia, and after that the prince of Greece will come. But before I go, I will reveal to you what is written in the book of truth. The only one who stands with me in this battle is Michael, your prince." In the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood by his side to support and strengthen him. Now I will reveal the truth to you. 3 more kings will rise in Persia, and the 4th will be wealthier than all of them. With his immense power and riches, he will stir up opposition against the kingdom of Greece. Then a mighty king will rise to power. He will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. But at the height of his strength, his kingdom will be shattered and divided into 4 parts, not passed down to his descendants, nor will it have the same power he once held. His empire will be taken and given to others. The king of the south will grow strong, along with one of his commanders, who will become even more powerful and establish a great kingdom of his own. After many years, the 2 kingdoms will try to form an alliance. The daughter of the king of the south will be given in marriage to the king of the north to secure peace, but the agreement will not last. She will lose her power, and both the king and those who supported her, including her father and those who trusted in her, will fall during this time. But from her lineage, a descendant will rise to power in her place. He will lead an army, invade the stronghold of the king of the north, and defeat them. He will also seize their gods, along with their rulers and treasures of silver and gold, and carry them away to Egypt. He will rule for a longer time than the king of the north. Afterward, the king of the south will invade the northern kingdom, but will eventually return to his own land. However, his son will be stirred to action, gathering a massive army. This force will advance, sweeping through the land like a flood, and then will return, preparing for another attack on the northern fortress. In response, the king of the south, filled with rage, will march into battle against the king of the north. Although the northern king will assemble a vast army, it will be defeated and fall into the hands of the southern king. After winning the battle, the king of the south will grow proud and will overthrow tens of thousands. Yet, despite his victory, his power will not last. The king of the north will regroup, and after some years, will return with an even larger army, equipped with great wealth and resources, ready to challenge the south once again. During this time, many will rise against the king of the south. Even among your own people, some will try to fulfill the vision by taking matters into their own hands, but they will fail. Meanwhile, the king of the north will advance, besiege fortified cities, and capture them. The forces of the south will be unable to resist, and even their best warriors will have no strength to stand against him. The northern king will do as he pleases, facing no opposition. He will establish himself in the glorious land, and by his power it will be devastated. He will then set his sights on strengthening his rule, using the power of his former kingdom. To secure his control, he will offer a daughter in marriage, attempting to manipulate events to his advantage. However, she will not remain loyal to him or support his plans. After this, he will turn his attention to conquering the islands and coastal lands, taking many territories. However, a leader will rise against him and put an end to the dishonor he has inflicted. This opposition will turn the king's own shame back on him. Forced to retreat, he will return to the fortress of his own land. But there, he will stumble, fall, and disappear, never to be seen again. In his place, another ruler will arise, one who will burden the land with heavy taxes. Though he will enjoy power and prestige for a short time, his reign will come to an end suddenly, not through war or violence, but by another means. A corrupt and dishonorable man will rise to power, though he was never meant to rule. He will not seize the throne through battle, but will instead gain control through deception and flattery. Those who stand against him will be swept away like a flood, and even a powerful leader of an important covenant will fall. After forming an alliance, he will act with treachery, using cunning strategies to strengthen his rule, despite having only a small following. Without resistance, he will enter the wealthiest regions and accomplish what neither his ancestors nor their fathers before them had done. He will distribute plunder, wealth, and resources among his supporters, using his influence to plan attacks against fortified places for a set time. Then he will gather his strength and launch a campaign against the king of the south, leading a massive army. The king of the south will also assemble a mighty force to resist him, but he will be unable to stand his ground because of internal betrayals. Even those closest to him, those who share his food, will turn against him, causing his army to collapse and leading to great losses. Despite being enemies, both kings will sit together at the same table, plotting against each other and speaking lies. However, their deceitful plans will not succeed, for events will unfold only at the appointed time. The northern king will return home with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the sacred covenant, and he will act upon his hostility before returning to his land. When the time comes, he will once again march toward the south, but this time things will not go as they did before. A fleet of ships from the west will come against him, forcing him into retreat. Filled with anger, he will turn his fury toward the Holy Covenant, showing favor to those who have abandoned it and conspiring with them. His forces will rise in his support, desecrating the sacred sanctuary and putting an end to the daily sacrifices. In their place, they will establish a terrible abomination that brings destruction. Those who act wickedly against the covenant will be led further astray by his deceitful words. But those who remain faithful to their God will stand strong and take bold action. Among the people there will be those with wisdom who will guide many, yet they will suffer greatly. Some will fall by the sword, others will be burned, imprisoned, or stripped of everything they own. Even in their suffering, they will receive some help, though many will join them insincerely, lured by flattery rather than true conviction. Some of the wise will stumble, but this will serve as a test, to refine them, purify them, and prepare them for what is yet to come, for the appointed time is not yet fulfilled. The king will act as he pleases, elevating himself above all, even above the divine. He will speak with arrogance, making astonishing claims against the God of gods. Yet he will continue to thrive until the time of judgment is complete, for what has been decreed must come to pass. He will have no regard for the God of his ancestors, nor will he care for the desires of others, including women. In his arrogance he will reject all gods, placing himself above them. However, he will show devotion to the God of power, worshipping an unfamiliar deity that his forefathers never knew. He will honor this God with wealth, gold, silver, and treasures. In the strongest fortresses, he will wield the influence of this foreign god, using it to gain recognition and prestige. He will raise up rulers in his name and divide the land among them, using it as a means of profit and control. As the final moments approach, the king of the south will launch an attack, but the king of the north will retaliate with overwhelming force. He will come like a violent storm, leading armies of horsemen, chariots, and a fleet of ships. Sweeping through the land, he will invade many territories, leaving destruction in his path. He will also enter the glorious land, conquering many nations. However, some regions, Edom, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon, will escape his grasp. Stretching his power even further, he will seize control of other lands, including Egypt, which will not be spared. He will take possession of Egypt's treasures, gold, silver, and other valuable riches, while the Libyans and Ethiopians follow in his wake. But then, troubling news will come from the east and the north, filling him with rage. Determined to crush all opposition, he will set out to destroy many without mercy. He will establish his royal headquarters between the seas, near the sacred mountain, believing himself to be untouchable. Yet his time will come to an end, and when it does, no one will come to his aid. At that moment, Michael, the great prince who stands in defense of God's people, will arise. A time of great distress will unfold, worse than anything the world has ever seen. But even in this chaos, salvation will come. Those whose names are recorded in the book of life will be delivered. Many who have long rested in the dust of the earth will rise again, some to eternal life, while others to everlasting shame and judgment. The wise will shine like the brilliance of the sky, and those who lead many toward righteousness will glow like the stars forever. But you, Daniel, seal these words and secure this book until the appointed time at the end, he was told. In those days, people will search endlessly for answers, and knowledge will greatly increase. Then Daniel looked up and saw two figures standing on opposite sides of a great river. One of them turned to a man dressed in linen who stood above the waters and asked, "How long until these astonishing events come to an end?" Daniel watched as the man in linen lifted both hands toward heaven and swore by the Eternal One, declaring, "It will last for a time, times, and half a time. When the strength of the holy people is completely shattered, then all these things will be fulfilled." Daniel heard the words, but he did not fully understand. So he asked, "My Lord, what will be the outcome of all this?" The man replied, "Go your way, Daniel. These words are sealed until the time of the end. Many will be purified, tested, and made righteous, but the wicked will continue in their ways. The corrupt will not understand, but the wise will discern the truth." From the moment the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination that brings desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits and endures until 1,335 days. But for you, Daniel, continue on your path. You will find rest, and in the end, you will rise to receive your place in the kingdom at the appointed time.